Coming your way on today's San Francisco 49ers report, the NFL draft is quickly approaching, and the 49ers have a massive need at right tackle still, even though we're a couple of weeks into free agency. So on today's show, we're looking at a plethora of tackle prospects that the 49ers could draft to replace Mike McGlinchey, but also who could they trade up for in the NFL draft if they decide to maneuver up the draft board as well. Now, you think about it right from a macro perspective. Why are we discussing the right tackle position? Well, the San Francisco 49ers, locked and loaded to compete for another Super Bowl. This roster has very few question marks all across the board at basically every single position. I would say the two question marks right now, it's right tackle, which we're covering today, as well as quarterback because of injury issues. Now, you look at the current right tackle options on this roster for Kyle Shanahan and the crew. You have a roster holdover who the 49ers extended in Colton McKivitz, longtime backup right tackle with some experience. And then you also have a free agency signing in Matt Pryor, who has played right tackle in his career, right guard, as well as left guard. He did play pretty well last year in spot duty at right tackle. He can fill in along that offensive line. I like his versatility. There's a reason, though, why this is his third team. Spent a couple of years with the Philadelphia Eagles, couple of years with the Indianapolis Colts. He's massive, 6'7", but he's more brought in as a backup versatile option. So with that, let's take a look at some of these right tackle targets. We're going to begin with some of the preeminent players in this 2023 NFL draft class, and these are players right now that the Niners would have to trade up for. So obviously the likelihood of it, somewhat small, but these players are really, really good. Paris Johnson, Ohio State, last year, 13 games played, really, really good. I like his athleticism. He can get out in space. They run at Ohio State under Ryan Day, an offense that does have some principles that you see littered across the NFL. 2 sacks allowed, 0 hits, 12 hurries. Pro Football Focus run grade, 80.9. Obviously, that's pretty good for the San Francisco 49ers, given how much they do like to run the football. Overall grade of 83, pass blocking grade 77.8, 827 snaps. Now to Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. He might be the best all-around offensive lineman in this draft class. Just some questions with him, because while he filled in at left tackle, right tackle, can play a lot of different positions, some people don't know if because of his short arms, he's more so a guard as compared to a tackle. But when Rashawn Slater sat out a couple of years ago, Skoronski as a true freshman stepped in. And in the Big Ten, you're going up against a lot of really, really good defensive linemen. Skoronski held his own, especially this past year. 1 sack allowed, 2 hits, 3 quarterback hurries, a Pro Football Focus run grade of 81.7. Anton Harrison is a guy who could go in the back end of the first round at Oklahoma. Once again, put together a pretty impressive resume. He is strictly a right tackle. Some of these other guys have that flexibility. 1 sack allowed, 0 hits. Really impressive, and what was a down year under Brent Venables in his first season for Oklahoma. 8 hurries. Pro Football Focus run grade not great at 67.7. A guy who I do like, the defending national champion Bulldogs would say the same. It's Broderick Jones out of Georgia. And depending on which draft boards you look at, could be a mid-first round pick, maybe a late first round pick. Maybe could slide into the second round. And when you get to some of these second round tackles, that's where some of these draft rumors pertaining to San Francisco get interesting, because maybe they could trade up. For Broderick Jones, really did do a good job of protecting Stetson Bennett. 0 sacks allowed for him, 2 hits, 7 hurries. Pro Football Focus run grade of 71.7. 933 overall snaps a year ago for UGA. Overall grade of 78.2. Pass blocking grade of 84.1. So those players who we've talked about so far require a trade up, because they're really good players atop a lot of teams' draft boards. But this is why you subscribe to the show, because we're going to uncover a lot of tackle prospects who could be available on the board for the Niners if they don't trade up. First up, let's hear from you. Do the Niners need to trade up for a right tackle. This is by far for me the biggest need on this football team, and offensive line crucially important for championship aspirations. N for need, D for don't need. We want to hear from the faithful. Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. Our guy Petey here at Chat Sports loves him because Rocky Top. He went to Tennessee. And Darnell Wright, you'd really like his game. And I'm actually kind of surprised why he isn't higher on some draft boards here. I think he moves pretty well. You look at his lower body, he's pretty big with his lower frame. 0 sacks allowed, only 2 hits, 6 hurries. Pro Football Focus run grade, little bit of a concern, of course, in a Kyle Shanahan zone scheme of 65. But his pass blocking grade, awesome. And we're in an era right now where you need to pass protect. Checking in there at 80.2, overall grade of 71.4. As far as Jaelyn Duncan, another guy who plays in the Big Ten, and week in, week out, you don't take on many slouches on the opposing defensive line. Now for him, he could slide down a little bit because he does need some grooming. He does need some development, and his numbers, not like some of the other players who we talked about, but if he fills into that athletic profile, this guy does have some potential. 7 sacks, 4 hits, 17 hurries, Pro Football Focus run grade of 62. Matthew Bergeron. I'm interested to see if he sticks at tackle, if he plays guard at the NFL level. Syracuse under Dino Babers got off to a roaring start in the ACC, was able to take the college football top 25 by storm. Then, as Syracuse always does, they cratered down the stretch. But Matthew Bergeron did not really crater. Pretty stout player who is pretty consistent all throughout the year, like Jaelyn Duncan, Darnell Wright, Matthew Bergeron, giving up more sacks than the aforementioned players, but this is the reality of where the Niners will be on the draft board. 5 sacks allowed last year for the Orange, 4 hits, 3 hurries, and a Pro Football Focus run grade of 69. A small school sleeper is McClendon Curtis out of Chattanooga. This is like one of those classic offensive linemen that Bill Belichick will get at some point in the draft just so that he can develop them up and then brag about getting him from a school like Chattanooga. But I'm intrigued by this player as well because I understand that the level of competition isn't all that great. But sometimes what you have to look out for offensive linemen, and you see this every single year when it comes draft time, right? These offensive linemen, you draft them in the middle rounds, you get them late, and sometimes it's not about what team they play for or what teams they play against. It's about the mechanics of your pass set. It's about your footwork, the explosion off the line of scrimmage. And for him, 0 sacks allowed, only 5 hits, 2 quarterback hurries. I imagine the quarterback play at Chattanooga, not all that good. That's important. Why? Because these guys hold on to the football forever. So if you're able to hold up with your pass protection, then it honestly makes your numbers a little bit more impressive, right? Because you're not playing with the great complementary cast around you because you're playing at a school like Chattanooga. So with that, breaking down a lot of good tackle prospects on today's show. By the way, by the time you watch this, I am in Key West, but the content does not stop from us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. That's why we're doing some of this draft content, though. Which tackle prospect do you want the Niners to draft? Let us know and give me a real one down in the comment section if you're still hanging out with us, because it's a real one roll call. We appreciate y'all. It's the San Francisco 49ers Report. For Jeffrey Cooperstein, I'm Chase Sr. Peace.